Hi, welcome to BIS Talks. Welcome to this brief talk about anti-bribery management system. Keeping the growth of the country in mind, the Bureau of Indian Standards, that is BIS, has introduced ISO 37001 2016 anti-bribery management system, also known as ABMS. Implementing ABMS in an organization ensures that bribery and hence corruption is weeded out. You can implement the ABMS yourself as well, but can you measure your own credibility? ISO 37001 2016 is a relatively new international standard adopted by India for anti-bribery management systems. It is an internationally agreed set of measures which organizations should implement to prevent and detect bribery.
All the government departments have the responsibility to ensure that integrity is maintained in the functioning of the organizations in every aspect of their work. And there are set procedures, rules, guidelines under various acts and legislations. Under the overall guidance of Central Vigilance Commission, necessary steps are taken by the organizations. But anti-bribery management system is an institutionalized answer to ensuring that systems are in place in the organization to ensure that preventive measures are taken by the organizations so that any instance of bribery or any instance of deviation from the standard government procedures do not occur.
It actually does not matter if the company is large or small, profitable or non-profit. It provides an in-depth audit and assessment in areas that are subject to bribery risk. It demonstrates conformance to local and global bribery and corruption laws. It ensures certainty while preventing conflicts of interest in commercial transactions. Also mitigating legal and reputational risks to enhance the brand. It instills positive corporate values to the workforce. Now, can you imagine without an ABMS system, the organization would be free from all buffet for anyone wanting to exploit loopholes and use their position. Doesn't matter big or small. All organizations may have individuals looking for easy money or fulfillment of other vested interests.
ABMS is a fantastic preventive vigilance tool, and as from the point of view of vigilance, I would say that it goes a long way in helping us ensure that instances of bribery are reduced, especially in those areas of an organization where the public dealing is higher. An organization can benefit by adopting ABMS in multiple ways. There would be increased likelihood of spotting corruption risk. There would be steady increase in risk evaluation, leading to measures towards their mitigation. It would enhance credibility and brand image of an organization. In fact, imbibing ABMS would be an emphatic step towards anti-bribery endeavors of an organization in line with global best practices.
This system acts as your eyes and ears in the organization to make sure there's no foul play. It is a system that is formed to maintain the integrity of the system. And we must note that the standard does not address specifically fraud or any other related activities to corruption. Rather, it sets requirements and provides guidance for the creation of a management system. And this management system in turn helps to prevent, detect, and respond to bribery in compliance with anti-bribery laws. When we implement the necessary measures designed to prevent, detect, and address bribery risks, it promotes trust and confidence for the shareholders, the key stakeholders, and even potential investors.
For a successful implementation of ABMS, the organizations first of all need to determine all the external and internal factors that are relevant to its purpose, like size, structure, locations and sectors where the organization operates. Similarly, the organization need to determine stakeholders that are relevant to the anti-bribery management system and their relevant requirements. The external and internal issues and requirements thus determined shall be considered to fix the boundaries and applicability of ABMS to establish its scope. Furthermore, this scope shall also be documented. An example of the scope is displayed on screen. Another important aspect in clause 4 of the standard is bribery risk assessment. For this, the organization need to identify bribery risks under consideration, analyze, assess and prioritize identified bribery risks and evaluate suitability and effectiveness of control. The organization shall establish the criteria for evaluating its level of bribery risk, and this assessment shall be reviewed on regular basis. It is equally important to retain the documented information that the bribery risk assessment has been conducted and used to design or improve the ABMS.
For an anti-bribery management system to be efficient and effective, the governing body and top management need to lead by example by actively supporting the implementation of anti-bribery management system. The governing body and top management have a number of responsibilities which are outlined in leadership clause. One of the main responsibilities of leadership includes defining the anti-bribery policy for the organization. The standard accord equal weightage to vertical and horizontal communication of anti-bribery policy to gain the support of functionaries at all levels. The policy shall be available as documented information and made available to all the relevant stakeholders. Another important responsibility of top management includes ensuring that the responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned and communicated throughout every level of the organization. This includes formation of anti-bribery compliance function and assigning responsibilities and authorities. Also adequately resourcing anti-bribery compliance function and ensuring its direct and prompt access to the governing body. Also, where decision making is delegated, top management needs to establish a process based on monetary value of the transaction and its perceived risk.
Assessing risk is the key to create and implement an effective compliance system. A risk assessment helps your company identify, determine priorities, develop policies and procedures to address the risk. The more an organization understands its bribery risk, the more effective the policies and procedure to prevent bribery will be. To understand this better, the organization should also understand the component of an effective risk assessment. An effective risk assessment needs to have well-trained and empowered people that guarantee a complete overview of the risk that the organization faces. It should take into account all the activities that may have a risk for bribery. It identifies the risk and then describes them in detail. A good risk assessment system will evaluate bribery risk by likelihood and impact and will prioritize them. Risk is equal to severity into probability, which means how bad it is or how likely it is to occur. The severity and probability can be given rating points, say from 1 to 5 for prioritization. The higher the severity or probability is on the scale, the higher the risk. Similarly, the organization shall establish anti-bribery management system objective, and to achieve anti-bribery objective, the organization shall regulate what will be achieved, what resources will be needed, who will be responsible, when the objectives will be achieved, and how the results will be evaluated and how they will be reported. The example of ABMS objectives may include:
Example of ABMS objective 1. Completion of disciplinary proceedings within time. 2. To do preventive surprise checks and CTE. 3. To conduct ABMS survey annually.
It is the responsibility of the organization to determine the necessary competence of the worker, that affects or can affect its anti-bribery performance and ensure that the workers are competent on the basis of appropriate education, skill, training or experience. Where possible, the employee should be vetted to evaluate whether they are appropriate for the employment before joining the organization. They should be given a copy of anti-bribery policy and declare any conflict of interest which need to be recorded. The organization should put in place safeguards to avoid unethical behavior, and disciplinary procedure should be defined for any breach of policy. Another critical factor is awareness and training. As effective awareness and training enables smooth operation of this standard, the workers shall be made aware of all anti-bribery policies and objectives and understand their contribution to the success of anti-bribery management systems. To ensure the effectiveness of an anti-bribery management system, healthy and proper communication is essential. The standard requires to establish and document the process for internal and external communication of information regarding its anti-bribery management system. This standard requires that the anti-bribery management system and all the information required by the standard to be documented or controlled. Changes or updates to the document should be identified, traceable, and reviewed regularly. This clause is the heart of this standard, as it defines how the organization can go beyond planning to practically put all that has been planned into action. There are various requirements in this clause, such as organizational planning and control, which details that the organization shall plan, implement, review, and control the processes needed to meet requirements of anti-bribery management system. Clause on due diligence states that organization shall carry out due diligence to assess the nature and the extent of the bribery risk in relation to specific transactions, projects, activities, business associates and persons falling under the category who have been found to have medium to high bribery risk in relation to their work. Then the organization must implement financial controls to manage bribery risk where financial interactions are involved. Apart from this, the organization must also implement non-financial controls that manage bribery risk with respect to such areas such as procurement, operational sales, commercial, human resource, legal and regulatory activities. Also, the organization must implement anti-bribery controls by control organization and by business associates and ensure anti-bribery commitments. In today's interconnected world, no organization works alone. Hence, the organization shall implement controls which requires all other organizations with whom it works shall also implement the organization anti-bribery management system or implement their own anti-bribery controls. Next, anti-bribery operational control is control on gift, hospitality, donations and similar benefits. We all know bribes are not always financial. Often it can take form of gift, hospitality, donations and similar benefits. Now people can get really creative when it comes to bribery. So organization need to be smarter. In such cases, the organization shall consider disassociating itself from the activity at the earliest. Raising concern is another critical operational parameter. Now for this parameter to work, employee must feel free to report any wrongdoing within the organization. Procedure must be in place to ensure that the employee feel protected from any kind of harm, physical or mental agony that they might encounter after raising concern. As far as possible, it must be made sure that the reporter of the wrongdoing remains anonymous. This will give employee the confidence to speak up against any wrongdoing. And last but not the least, investigation and dealing with the bribery. After you identify the bribery issue, it is important to have appropriate team of personnel that investigate the violation of anti-bribery policy. After all, we need to remember that bribery has very broad scope, a scope which is only limited by the person's greed and imagination. Swift action must be taken upon disclosure of any wrongdoing. The inquiry and the result of inquiry too must be kept confidential as possible. By undertaking all these operational controls, organization can well equip themselves to fight against bribery and its consequences.
The organization itself can evaluate its performance against the set parameters as defined in the ABMS policy and objectives. For this, the organization has to monitor, measure, analyze, evaluate and conduct internal audit and management reviews. Things need to be monitored and measured are the extent to which legal requirement and other requirements are fulfilled, its activities and operations related to identified risk and opportunities, progress towards achievement of the organization's ABMS objectives, effectiveness of its operational and other controls, and other things as identified and decided by the organization that the organization feel is important to be monitored and measured for the effective implementation of the management system. In addition to this, organization is also required to determine the frequency of the monitoring, measurement, evaluation and communication of the result of reviews. The organization shall also conduct internal audit and management reviews at the planned intervals. Now, after analyzing the result of evaluation, the organization shall do the following. Whenever an incident or a non-conformity occurs, the organization shall react in a timely manner as applicable. The organization can either take action to control and correct it or deal with its consequences. The organization shall evaluate the need for corrective action to eliminate the root cause of the incident or non-conformity in order that it does not recur or occur elsewhere. This clause also requires organization to determine and identify opportunities for continual improvement of the anti-bribery management system thus implemented.
Well, ABMS is an excellent preventive vigilance tool which, if imbibed by an organization, will go a long way in reducing the instances of bribery in an organization. Worldwide, more than 2,000 organizations have adopted it. In India also, many government organizations, many big government organizations have adopted it, and many big PSUs, both big and small, are in line towards adopting it.
Organization desirous of obtaining system certification as per any management system standard has to do the following. Understand the requirement of the standard, implement the standard and prepare documents as required by the standard, conduct training program for the employees to develop a shared understanding of the tasks to be performed, lay down the objectives and norms to measure progress against them, establish policy, identify risk and opportunities, institutionalize internal audit and management review. Now, how they will apply to BIS? Application can be submitted online through the MSCD portal. To submit your application, identify the regional office under whose jurisdiction your premise is located. You can contact the concerned management system certification coordinator who can guide you about the process of application and extend necessary support in the certification process. On acceptance of the application, we normally give the date of stage 1 audit. We communicate it through email, and nowadays, as it is an online process, you can get it directly from our website. Now, after that, we will inform you how much fee you have to submit. The stage 1 audit is the occasion to verify the authenticity and adequacy of the information shared by the organization regarding its preparedness through verification of documents, field visit and discussion with you. Instances of non-conformity are communicated for corrective action within the mutually agreed time frame. On successful completion of stage 1 audit, stage 2 audit is planned for final verification of the compliance with the requirements of the standard. In case there is still some corrective action required to be taken, 45 days time is given to the organization to do that. On successful completion of the stage 2 audit, license is granted, which has a validity for 3 years. Now, in post-application stage, what we will do? Normally during this 3-year period, BIS undertakes 2 surveillance audits to ensure that the organization has stayed compliant to the requirement of this standard. I urge you to come forward and implement ISO 37001 ABMS. BIS, with its vast experience and strong team of professionals, will be by your side in this beautiful journey.